Hi, and welcome to the And One podcast. I am your host, Alex West, and today I'm joined by Patrick Oxford, and we talk about Summer League. Make sure to follow us on SoundCloud, like us on YouTube, on Facebook, however you get your podcasts. Listen to us on iTunes. Brent, take us away. I'm joined by my guest today, Patrick Oxford. Patrick, how are you, sir?
I am doing splendid today. How about you, man?
Awesome. Can't complain. Summer League has wrapped up. We are now officially in the doldrums of summer. It's a long time till training camp, but at least we have some Summer League to talk about today.
Indeed.
So let's jump right in. You've done a lot of things that worked in basketball in a lot of different ways, and you know that the level of play can be affected by things. Training camp, certainly different than the regular season from the playoffs. How much stock do you put in Summer League?
I mean, it depends on the experience of the player, for sure. I think for like rookies, I think flashes of stuff they eventually could do is all you really need to see, and they just don't look like a mess who is lost out there. I think those are big things. Then you get into like second, third year players. If they're lottery picks, you definitely expect them to dominance. Maybe not straight outright just fill out the box score, but at least what they're expected to be doing at the NBA level, they need to be dominating at the summer league level.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people want to do the thing where if somebody plays well, and you say, okay, well, this guy's legit, and then if he doesn't play well, you say, well, it's just Summer League. So I know that there's a lot of mitigation in Summer League performances, but it's very interesting to take away because there is so much that goes on in these couple of weeks, and you do see a lot of what the players can become, and then a lot of times you see players play very well who don't end up being great NBA players. So there's a lot of variance in these games. What can you learn from that?
I think the variance is fine. I think because you look more at peak performances for future performance. As players get older in the league, it's not necessarily. I mean, their peak performances do get better, but the reason their averages go up is more because they cut out those bad performances. So when you're trying to project what a player will do in the future, it's better to look at that top 25% of the performances.
Okay. Well, let's dive in and let's talk about some specifics. Who really impressed you right off the bat in Summer League this year?
Dennis Smith looked really good. He definitely impressed. He showed that he shouldn't have been drafted that late. He should have been ahead of at least one other point guard. Isaac, he got hurt a little bit, but I was really impressed with what he was doing. His rebounding numbers were transferred really well from college, which is what you'd want to see, and which is why I projected him to the Celtics in my mock draft, because I thought they could have really used his rebounding to mitigate Horford as an undersized center. But they decided to go Tatum. That's another look. I don't really think that was the right look yet, but we'll see. The jury's definitely out on that one.
So let's start with Dennis Smith. A lot of talk about Dennis Smith and how well he played and how he sort of had a command of the game beyond, 20? I mean, just a guy with a real command of the game. What impressed you about Dennis Smith so much? Was it his playmaking, his ability, his shot-making ability, just his explosive athleticism? I mean, there's so much to love there.
There really is. The athleticism obviously is going to stand out right away. He's one of those players that you watch him and you're like, I see how he could be very, very good in this league. Similar to, I mean, if you watched him and you watched young Westbrook, I'm sure there'd be a lot of similarities you could glean from that comparison. Another good aspect of him, I think, is his confidence on the court. He doesn't always have confidence in his teammates, as you probably saw when he was in college, but he has confidence in himself for sure.
Well, I live in ACC country, and I watched a lot of Dennis Smith and the gang when he was playing for the Wolfpack at NC State, and a lot of times it was just Dennis Smith and friends. Like, he was out there and he would do his thing, and other people were just kind of there, and they played two bigs, and there wasn't a lot of spacing on the floor for him. So it's really nice to see Dennis Smith get to play in a way. Sometimes kids in college have skill sets that translate better to the pro game, and I think Dennis Smith's one of those guys because the floor has just opened up for him in such a great way. Whereas at NC State, playing with two bigs sort of just creates a log jam in the lane, and I feel like he's really, really going to be able to get creative and play very well. I think one of the big questions I have about Dennis Smith, since we're on the subject, is do you think the Mavericks are going to give him the keys? I mean, do you really think that they're going to just turn the offense over to him and let him do his thing?
I do. Based on their reaction when they drafted him, I know we talked about last time how they were cheering, like outright at him not being picked by the Knicks. I think that shows that they were really, really high on him. And Carlisle makes point guards look really good, with the exception of Rajon Rondo. I mean,
well, yeah, that was a whole different thing.
Yeah, but it was unnecessary shot at Rondo. My bad. But looking at Dennis Smith in that system, man, because that system's all about spacing, and like you were saying, at NC State he didn't have that spacing with the two bigs. I have it now. I mean, playing
having
with
Dirk, Harrison Barnes. I mean, even like Seth Curry. Like there's a ton of floor spacers, and then to have a guy like Nerlens Noel behind you who is capable offensive player, but he's a monster on defense. He can block shots and sort of protect the poor parts of the game that haven't translated so well for Smith in his defense.
Yeah, Nerlens with quick hands, and honestly, his hands are maybe the most impressive aspect of his game defensively. He just has incredible instincts in those passing lanes, and he's going to be able to clean up a lot of the rookie mistakes you'd expect from Dennis Smith. Because, I mean, every rookie is going to be making mistakes on defense. It's just a natural part of the game, and it's what you expect. So Nerlens is probably one of the best in terms of being able to move large distances across the court and make plays.
So let's talk about Jonathan Isaac. You mentioned Jonathan Isaac, who didn't play a tremendous amount in the summer league, but one of the things that I've been thinking about with Jonathan Isaac is, to me, he looks like a modern NBA center. I mean, I know that a lot of places have him listed as a small forward or sometimes a power forward, but to me, he looks like he can play a small ball center. What did you see out of Isaac that really impressed you, that maybe showed that his game's going to translate as a big man in the league?
Like I was saying, the rebounding was really impressive. I think he was doing like 8 rebounds a game or 8.5 rebounds a game. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but in only like 16 minutes per game in the summer league. And I mean, hey, that's going to translate. Rebounding has been shown to translate throughout the levels. And then his aggressiveness, he went up for an alley-oop one time. He didn't complete the play, but he got fouled. But kind of that aggressiveness, you don't normally expect that from a guy with his slide of a frame. But the fact that he's willing to go do that kind of excites you for what he can do when he does fill out the frame and is able to finish those plays.
They have a sort of a weird situation with Aaron Gordon and Vucevic and several guys that don't really have positions. How do you see that working out in Orlando?
Yeah, I mean, Vucevic, I think, is probably trade bait. It's tough to say that because, I mean, they just got in some new upper management, so there's definitely going to be some decisions to be made there. But, I mean, it's just really a crowded front court. I think I'm not sure there's enough room for Gordon, Isaac, and a center. I think if you want to play Isaac as your center, that's something you could do, just knowing that it's not going to be successful this season, but hopefully he can grow into it. And Gordon is stocky enough that maybe he can take some of those bigger matchups.
Yeah.
The Bismack Biyombo contract is just going to be something they have to live with. I think Vucevic is movable at his number, and that's probably something they should look at. But Biyombo is just, wow. Yeah, I was wrong on that contract too.
So the thing about Orlando is they've drafted high for a number of years, and it seems like they haven't found their guy. They're like if you look at Philadelphia as the textbook example of how the process can work, Orlando is the opposite. They've tried the process. They've tried this being bad for several years, picking high in the lottery, and none of these guys have seemed to land for them. Elfrid Payton, Hazonia. I mean, you can just rattle off names. They traded Tobias Harris, but all these guys that they've drafted that just have not worked out for them. Do you think Jonathan Isaac is a guy who's going to be a great player for Orlando, or do you think that he has some development?
It's not the greatest fit in my opinion, because I think I view him more as a role player, a glue player that can play alongside stars, can complement them in many ways because there's a lot of things he can do on the court. But as far as like a volume scorer, I don't see that kind of future for him. So I think that's probably what they should have gone for. Dennis Smith is there, but it's not the way they went.
Well, Dennis Smith, and you know, you've said it, I've said it, several other guys on 94 Feet Slack have said it. Dennis Smith's the player that we're going to look back and probably say, how did he fall to ninth? And for me, the most egregious is him not being picked with the 7th pick to play with Chicago. I mean, that's the one for me that if you're Chicago, I don't know what it is you're planning to do, but you have Denzel Valentine, you have Bobby Portis, and I feel like adding Dennis Smith was a no-brainer for them. And you know, the others are at least defensible. When you look at Orlando taking Isaac, or you look at Phoenix taking Josh Jackson, those are at least defensible to me. But taking Lauri Markkanen is just completely indefensible. And that's the hill I'm going to die on about this draft, is nobody should have taken Lauri Markkanen at 7.
Well, I think he's another player like Isaac. He's not the level of Isaac, but I think he's another player like Isaac that if you're plugging him in, projecting him as a third option who can space the floor for your other players. In Minnesota, for example, I think he would have been a really solid option next to Karl Anthony Towns, next to Andrew Wiggins. But, yeah, I don't think Chicago was the right answer for him at all. That was a really confusing pick to me.
All right, who else has impressed you?
In general, but.
Well, yeah, that's true. Who else has impressed you in Summer League? There have been just names have just come off the board and been really impressive. Who else do you have on your list?
Swanigan looks like he's going to transfer really well. He's just been putting up double, you know, over and over again.
He averaged a double for Summer League. He was at 16.1 points and 10.6 in 8 games in Las Vegas. He's been very impressive. How does he pair with Nurkic?
I'm not sure about the fit. Obviously, his three-point shooting is valuable, but he's the kind of guy I think that go to his bread and butter, which is the post game, and fall back on the three-point game. I don't think he's going to be a dude that stand on the perimeter, spacing the floor, and I don't think that's how he's going to thrive. I think full shooting those threes, he's got to be involved in the offense prior to that.
Yeah, he definitely seems like a player that's going to want to pound the rock and have the ball inside. And sort of along that same line, putting in Caleb Swanigan, the same sort of situation with Bam Adebayo in Miami, which by all accounts, Bam Adebayo had a fantastic summer league. I mean, he was fantastic to watch. His skill set seemed far beyond what it was at Kentucky, where he was just sort of a rim protector, dunks kind of guy. But to add Swanigan with Nurkic, to add Bam Adebayo with Hassan Whitesides in a league where it seems that they were going smaller, I think is 2 interesting choices by teams that are probably in the playoff hunt. I'm not sure how well that's going to work or if you have to stagger them. What do you think about that?
Do you have Bam's summer league numbers in front of you? I do. Recall looking, and I was thinking his field goal percentage was pretty low, which I know it's not all-important thing, but
he shot 43% in Las Vegas. He had a better Orlando. Hold on, let me see if I can find him. No, he's 35% from the field in Orlando. So yeah, you're spot on. His field goal percentage was not great.
Yeah, Bam's field goal percentage in summer league was a little bit lower than I really thought. Transferable to an NBA skill set, and then looking at going forward for the Miami Heat future, I think paying Hassan Whiteside, what contract would he be eligible for? The 35% next time he's available? Yeah. I think paying him 35% of your cap is kind of frightening. I would be a little bit scared of doing that, and he's definitely going to be looking for it.
Yeah, I think that is interesting. I mean, Whiteside, obviously one of those players who worked very hard to improve his skill set, but building a team around a Hassan Whiteside is a very interesting proposition. And granted, they have a lot of quality skill players in Goran Dragic, James Johnson, Tyler Johnson, all these guys. They have good pieces, but to say that Hassan Whiteside is your best player and your number one option, that feels kind of strange to me in the modern NBA.
Yeah, I agree. But although if you really are going to have a a really great team around him and you do get really far in the playoffs, a good center is something those other teams aren't really prepared for.
That's true. I mean, that's a very good point.
You know, if you're trying to zig while everyone else is zagging, that's exactly what Miami's doing right now.
Yeah. Well, a guy who really impressed me, sort of changing gears here, I was really, really impressed with Utah's Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell, he didn't play a tremendous amount. He only played the 2 games in Las Vegas. But, boy, he really looked like a monster, way above his draft position. What was your takeaway on Mitchell?
Yeah, I liked him. I don't know how much the jump shot is going to be right away. I think eventually, 3-4 years down the line, he can get to that level where he's hitting jump shots consistently off the dribble. But the defense is legit. This dude is Martin Patrick Beverly is how I put it at the time, and I kind of still feel the same way.
Yeah, I definitely think that's fair. He played very well. He was a bulldog on the perimeter, and generally just very impressive to me. And I think Utah was a pretty great landing spot for him with the departure of George Hill, with the departure of Gordon Hayward. There's going to be a lot of minutes for him to make a name for himself, and if he's a guy who's willing to work as hard as it looks like he is, I definitely think that Utah's going to be pretty pleased with the player they got with the 12th pick in the draft. Oh, no, the 13th pick in the draft.
Yeah, I think Denver really lost that trade. Trey Lyles and Tyler Lydon for Donovan Mitchell is going to be something that people look back at, I think, and they're like, wow, that's a mess up, especially with the uncertainty at point guard for Denver with Emmanuel Mudiay, not people thought, and Jamal Murray's position kind of up in the air still.
Yeah, I think Denver, and I'm sure we will get more into this as we get closer to the season, sort of exploring team by team. But I think Denver is going to be in one of those positions where they're going to rely on Jokic to be a lot of their creator, and then Paul Millsap probably as their secondary creator, which I think opens up a lot of space for a guy like Jamal Murray to not play traditional point guard, but play the point guard position. You know, when you fill out the stats, when you fill out the depth chart, he's going to be the one, but the primary creation is probably going to come from Jokic.
Can I make a hot take about Denver?
Hit me. I love hot takes.
All right, great. I think Monte Morris could be the starting point guard for them at some point in the season, and not just because of injury.
You think he's a legit starting number 1?
The way he runs the offense is... Well, he had an amazing assist-to-turnover ratio in college all 4 years, and I think that... I do think that one thing that could inhibit that is maybe them wanting to stagger the minutes of him and Jokic, making sure one of them is always on the court. But as far as playmaking, he's, I think, clearly the best playmaker on their team already.
I have an affinity for four-year guys, and Monte Morris falls into that category. They tend to come out a little more polished. They're probably usually not as developed athletically because they would have gone earlier if they were. But you get a guy like Monte Morris, or you get a guy like Taurean Green last year, or Frank Jackson. There are all these guys who played 4 years in college and know how to run offenses and know how to make flex cuts and all these things that are important. And I think that while you said that was a hot take, I mean, I definitely could see that being a situation in Denver where their point guard situation is so up in the air.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So another guy that really impressed me, and I mean, I feel like we don't really even have to talk about this very long because so many people are going to talk about it, but I have been very high on Lonzo Ball. Since the beginning of the scouting process, I've been very high on Lonzo Ball. I love guys who pass the ball, who make their teammates better, who get teammates the ball when they're open. Lonzo just looked really good to me, and he looked really comfortable. Despite his shooting woes, his impact on the court looked very impressive to me.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned about the shooting all that much. I think you just look at how good his teammates looked, and that's not to take anything away from Kyle Kuzma or Thomas Bryant, who I think both looked really, really good in Summer League. Yeah. I think you can attribute that to Lonzo Ball to at least some degree.
Yeah, I mean Kyle Kuzma. That's another guy we have on our list to talk about. But let's go ahead and jump into Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah.
Incredibly impressive. A guy who shot 51% from the field, averaged 21 points in 7 games, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, did a little bit of everything. But I think there's a very pertinent question that has to be asked, and that question is, what is Kyle Kuzma?
Yeah, I don't think I see him as a starting level player going forward because he's a little bit undersized for the 4, although I think his perimeter defense looked a lot better than I expected, which if he can play the 3 a little bit, that's something that maybe they look at. But I'm not sure that his 3-point shooting will be quite as good as we saw in Summer League. He shot, I think, 32 point something percent in college this last season.
Yeah.
And a more accurate representation of what we'll see from him going forward. But, hey, if he proves me wrong and hits 38, 39% from 3, then he's definitely a rotation player who can come in, provide energy off the bench, playing that combo forward spot, I think.
Yeah, I really was impressed with him. He had high IQ, and I do contribute a lot of that to Lonzo, who is a high IQ player who elevates the IQ of other players. But I feel like when you say something like that, you're detracting from the player. And Kyle Kuzma was there. He was in the right position. He was playing high IQ basketball, and I was really impressed with it. Now, I don't know where that puts him in their forward rotation, particularly behind Brandon Ingram, who looked a hell of a lot stronger in Summer League this year, and Julius Randle, who has put in a lot of off-season work. But I definitely think that you're right that he's going to play in a rotation at some point this season.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Randall though is he's got a really high cap hold next summer, and if the Lakers are trying to open up space for big plans, moving Randall could be something they want to do, which could mean in turn that they feature him at the beginning of the season to get that trade value as high as possible.
Yeah, definitely. If he's cut weight, he posted on Instagram his workout plan and all that stuff, and he definitely looks like a different player. But I'll be interested to see early in the season what that translates to. Particularly with adding Brook Lopez, which sort of seems like a little bit of a strange fit to me, but what do you think about that?
I really like the Lopez signing just because it gives Randall a lot more room to work down low, and like I say, if you're trying to boost his trade value, what better way than to give him the paint to himself? And as far as playing with Lonzo Ball, I'm not sure Lonzo will be the starter necessarily day one. I think Luke Walton is a big guy on earning the spot. I heard him say that on, I think, the Low podcast.
Yeah, he was on Zach Lowe's podcast, yeah.
Yeah, and he was big on earning the spot and competing. So I'm not sure that Lonzo will start from day one, but Lopez with Lonzo is just, wow, because Lonzo's going to make you pay for one misstep as a defender, one step in the wrong direction on the pop, and Lopez can pop or roll, which makes it doubly as hard to guard.
Yeah. Two forwards that were I was pretty impressed with, at least. Jason Tatum. Tatum looked exactly like what we thought he was. He was a polished scorer. He had fantastic feet. He always seemed to be in position offensively. What did you see from Tatum?
Yeah, I saw a lot of what we saw in college, and I'm not sure that's what we're going to see from him in a Brad Stevens offense until maybe 2-3 years down the line. Because that's just not the kind of offense Brad Stevens is doing, and I think that you really have to be a special player to get a player like Brad Stevens to change their offense to accommodate you.
Yeah, I mean, but he definitely looked good, and I said this. I wrote the off-season review, and I talked about Jason Tatum. I still feel like Tatum is probably their third best option right now, behind Gordon Hayward and behind Isaiah Thomas. In terms of scoring and being able to create his own shot. And I feel like Tatum's going to find his way into the rotation.
I agree with that. I mean, Horford maybe, because I think that he can probably get to just a post shot that's not a great efficiency, but a average efficiency post shot that's probably just as good efficiency as a turnaround from Tatum, if not better.
Yeah, the thing about Horford is that I see him, particularly in the playoffs, he served this role when Isaiah Thomas was injured, and then even more so when he was out, that Horford is perfectly willing to facilitate offense from the top of from the high post, from beyond the 3-point line. He's a guy who is very willing to do something like that. And to add another player like Tatum, and then obviously to add an all-star like Gordon Hayward, I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity to feature his passing ability, which is something that's sort of underrated in a lot of ways.
Yeah, Horford's practically like custom made for Brad Stevens' offense. If not, I mean, if he was a better rebounder, obviously he'd be even more ideal. But as far as the passing, the shooting range, the unselfishness, all of the things that are needed.
Yeah, the other guy, Phoenix, Josh Jackson. Jackson had a pretty solid summer league. I mean, he definitely was a standout, landed himself on the first team all summer league. I really liked Jackson. As a Celtics fan, there were some things that I wasn't too keen on during the workout process. But what did you think about Jackson in summer league?
I'm sorry, you cut off at the end there. Can you say that again?
I said, what did you think about Jackson in summer league?
I think it was kind of a lot of what we saw when he was at Kansas. He had a lot of mismatches. I saw a lot of smaller players guarding him for for a large duration of the games, and I don't know. I wasn't as big of a fan of him as you are. I think there's definitely positional concerns. Short to play the 4. There's shooting concerns, which I don't think he really alleviated.
No, most definitely not.
Yeah, so I mean the concerns I had are still there. What I think he does well, which is exploit mismatches and distribute, he did well. But he didn't alleviate any concerns for me.
My big concern with Jackson is, and the more you watch him, the more it becomes apparent, his wingspan is not good. Like it's not even like passable. He has very short arms, and I feel like sometimes that shows itself, particularly on the defensive end, where he can be bothered by length, and then trying to create for himself in the same way. He just has very short arms, and I feel like that's something that's going to hinder his game because there's nothing you can do about having short arms.
Yeah, you can't teach wingspan. Exactly. And that's exactly why I didn't have him, in the top 5 or anything in my big board, because there's definitely concern as to how he translates as the game goes more towards a switching defense, and length and versatility is just more and more important by the day.
Yeah, and the positional concerns, like you said, like playing with Booker and Ulis, sort of puts him in that position to play a 3 or a 4 when I feel like maybe he's better suited for a 2 or a 3. So it'll be interesting to see his development and how he gets used in Phoenix's defensive and offensive game plans.
Yeah, I think him as a 2 where he can continue to exploit mismatches is probably better look for him.
Yeah.
He was guarded by a lot of 4s in college, and he was faster than them, and now summer league he was guarded by a lot of 2s, smaller 3s, and he was able to overpower them. But if you ever see a future for him as a primary scorer, I'm just wondering, can he score on those defenders that are guarding the primary scorers?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's not going to have to worry about that with Devin Booker on his team, because Devin Booker is going to be taking those primary defenders for the most part. And I'm really high on Ulis, actually, so I think that if there's anyone they can kind of find him on those cuts, Josh Jackson's got a great motor, so if you can get him to where his IQ off ball is high enough that 3 and not have any issues with spacing, and that's very possible with the roster with Chris and Bender, because those are both dudes that project as shooters.
Yeah, Phoenix, Earl Watson has his work cut out for him. As the head coach, he's going to have to go through a lot of growing pains with this team, but I definitely think that this is a team that's going to find its way into my League Pass queue more often than not throughout the early part of the season.
Yeah, definitely the early part of the season. I'd probably steer clear come March.
Yeah.
Early part of the season for sure.
All right, we've talked about the guys that we liked. Let's flip over and talk about some people we were disappointed with. Who didn't you love?
Not many guys stood out to me just right in my face, but Zach Collins was one that I thought looked unprepared.
Okay.
Would be a good way to say it. He is young, so it's not that big of a deal, but when the concerns about him were that he was doing a lot of his work against second units with Karnowski taking on the first units at Gonzaga, more concerning when he struggles in the summer league.
Yeah, Collins is an interesting pickup at 10. He was a guy who only played 17 minutes a game at Gonzaga. He was Gonzaga's first ever one and done. And I know that a lot of times that you draft for that potential, but I think that's a pretty high pick for a guy who didn't show a ton to me in college. Particularly, I was not impressed with him in the national title game, which I felt like was a big stage and a chance for him to showcase himself. But I watched that again this week and just was not particularly impressed with Zach Collins.
That officiating in that game, though, he didn't really have an opportunity to make an impact in that game. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. I've been really disappointed in him in the summer league, but I wasn't too upset about that performance. Just based on what did he get, like 11 minutes that game or something?
Yeah, he didn't play a lot, but again, that's like something that sort of feeds into it for me. Is that he didn't play a lot, and he wasn't a guy who was a feature player on his team. He came off the bench, and I do understand, where it comes from, but it's just interesting to me to see him go that high.
Yeah, I wasn't too mad about how high he went because I think it was obvious that he was this player that was going to take a year or two to come in and actually really be able to contribute. And the fact that they were able to get Caleb Swanigan, who looks like, if not a home run pick, at least a very good double, we'll call it.
And sometimes you got to pick those doubles. I mean, sometimes, you just got to get solid players. But I don't know. I think that I would have been perfectly satisfied if I was the Trailblazers with 15 and 20 and been okay with it. But
yeah, especially when you look and see what players were available at those slots. If they keep 15 and grab OG Anunoby at 20, wow.
Yeah, that Harry Giles went at 20. John Collins is still on the board at 15. A guy who was very impressive for the Hawks and looked like a high IQ basketball player. I just feel like trading up for Zach Collins was a very strange move. And it definitely still has time to pay off, but that's not something I would have explored as a general manager.
Yeah, fair enough. I think John Collins has impressed me. He definitely has concerns about his wingspan, just like Josh Jackson. His arms are not long at all, which means playing center may be out of the question, but his arms are long enough to play the 4, which makes me think that he definitely has a spot at least as an energy big off the bench. I think that's the floor I see for him right now. And a starter would not shock me at all.
Particularly with them in the phase where it looks like they're going to do a little bit of a rebuild. I could see John Collins getting a significant amount of minutes. Who else didn't impress you besides Zach Collins?
There wasn't a lot of people. Are there any names you'd like to throw out there? Maybe you can jump shot.
Yeah. Well, I feel like sometimes I beat on this guy on the podcast, but Markkanen did not look good. He didn't look well adjusted. The problems that plagued him in college seemed to stick around. He has trouble finishing against length, and then his shot just wasn't there. I do feel like he's gonna be okay, but boy. If this level of play continues at this rate, which I don't think it will, I mean, I think he'll be a solid player, but to just look and go, yeah, Dennis Smith was on the board when this pick got made. Or even Malik Monk. Like, there are just guys who are on the board that made me think, like, okay, here's a team rebuilding who wants to get an impact player. And this seemed like swinging for a single, if we're going to stick with the baseball analogy to me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think that it was maybe swinging for a double, and maybe they got a single, hopefully, is maybe the way I would look at it. Because, again, I don't think he ever projected as a star player. Like, I never saw the Dirk comparison. I was always more on the Ryan Anderson comparison.
On the Channing Frye, which I like. See, that's the thing to me is, like, you talk about Ryan Anderson. Channing Frye is another guy, like, is that really a guy you want to take at 7? You want to take a Ryan Anderson at 7 when you're looking to rebuild?
Yeah, I think if you're looking to rebuild, that's not the pick. If you're looking to, you already have 2 players, maybe 3. Okay, because the thing that with Markkanen is he's always going to provide spacing. I'm pretty confident his jump shot is going to transfer. He's
not going to shoot his point. Yeah, exactly.
Which means the defense has to guard him. And there's value to that in many ways.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I've been pretty down on him. I mean, I watched a lot of film on him at Arizona, and he didn't impress me. And then getting picked up in this trade, and just a lot of things about Lauri Markkanen have not been particularly impressive to me. And hopefully it'll turn around. I mean, hopefully I have a good friend who's a Bulls fan who's borderline manic at this point with the rebuild, knowing that he could have had Dennis Smith and Jordan Bell. Instead, he ended up with Lauri Markkanen and $3.5 million.
Jordan Bell's another guy I'd love to talk about. Man,
Let's
did you
talk
know
about him.
that the Chicago White Sox signed a draft pick for $3.7 million the day before they sold the Jordan Bell pick for $3.5 million?
Yeah, and a lot of people have said that Jerry Krause the owner?
Reisendorf, I think.
Oh yeah, Rondorf. Yeah. That he loves the White Sox more than he loves the Bulls, and maybe that just showed. I don't know. To me, and I'll put this out here, and you're the expert, so I'll let you think on this one. But Jordan Bell's the kind of guy that if you want to beat the Warriors, that you want to have, and then him ending up on the Warriors just seems so poetic because he's basically David West. Again, all over again.
I think that was like the worst case scenario for the league. Like, if the Warriors could buy in for any player in the second round, I'll be like, as we keep doing this, we keep giving them these pieces. We gave them Patrick McCaw at 38 last year. We're giving them Jordan Bell 38 this year. Patrick McCaw is another guy who looked great in Summer League. He looks like a dude who was playing in significant minutes in the finals.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, McCaw played so well in the Summer League and was seeming to come on to play minutes in the finals, played well in the playoffs. As Iggy starts to age and starts to phase his way out of the lineup of death, I mean, it looks like they're just ready to plug another guy. And with McCaw and then adding Jordan Bell, who seems to do a little bit of everything on the court, it's going to be scary with these young guys.
It's upsetting, to say the least.
Yeah. But that's kind of what I took away from Summer League. I saw a lot of guys that did a lot for me, that impressed me. There are some guys that weren't as impressive as I wanted them to be that I'm still high on, like De'Aaron Fox. I mean, Fox, I feel like he's a legitimate good player in the league, and he didn't play. He played okay, but he didn't play transcendently. And then the other guys that I'm disappointed with are Malik Monk, Harry Giles, Frank Ntilikina, just the guys that we didn't see, because that's always sad.
Yeah. If you don't mind talking about a couple others, I'll throw some names at you, like Shimi Ojale. Did you watch him with the Celtics?
Oh, yeah. And I'm a Celtics fan, and so I watched literally all of their Summer League games. Very, very impressive. But go ahead and break it down for me.
Yeah, I just loved his versatility defensively. You know, they had him guarding, I think they were playing the Lakers. They had him guarding Thomas Bryant one play. Or not Thomas Bryant, and then Josh Hart the next play. And it's just like, if he's bringing that kind of versatility, that's exactly what they use in Boston.
He fits it.
Tailor-made.
Yeah, he fits in so well with positionless basketball. And one of the most impressive things about Shimmy to me was his physicality, just how strong he was. He never got bumped off his spot. And he hit open shots. I mean, which I know is sort of it seems obvious for an NBA player, but with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown creating a lot of space for him, he was in a lot of catch and shoot situations where he really looked great. And I think being able to defend multiple positions and being able to catch and shoot goes such a long way in a Brad Stevens system. Yeah,
it really should go such a long way in any system that's really trying to compete in today's NBA.
True. Who else? Who else is on your list?
Jonah Bolden. Did you see Philadelphia play much?
I did.
Yeah, I liked his ability to guard in space. When I was scouting him, I was reading interviews of his UCLA teammates back when he was there before he went overseas, and they were just talking about how on the court in practice, and that's something that you really like to see with a team that already has Ben Simmons, who can possibly play the point guard at 6'9". If you have Jonah Bolden, if his shooting transfers, playing the power forward, Embiid at center, and then you get two other wings in there, you're looking at a lineup of 6'7" and up.
Yeah. Interesting note about Bolden is it looks like he may be playing overseas this season. What I'd heard about him was that he might end up playing in Israel, just for this year because the Philadelphia roster is so crowded. But I'll be interested. Like he was definitely impressive, and I definitely feel like he's an NBA caliber player. But I'll be interested to see if he ends up in Israel or in the G League at some points during the league or during the year.
Yeah, either one of those would be a possibility. But yeah, he's definitely very impressive to me.
Yeah, he seemed like a very good fit in their system, and he's got a ton of length and just a lot of things to love. And Philadelphia going to be a scary team. There are going to be some growing pains of putting it together, though.
Playoffs is not a lock, but I feel confident saying they're going to make the playoffs. The JJ Redick signing was just a great signing. I thought that's how you should be using cap space in these kind of situations. Perfect use of it. Go out, get the dude you want for a short time, and then once you build up a rapport with other players around the league, next year you can go out, hopefully sign JJ Redick at a lower number so his cap hold isn't killing you, because if he's not going to take a cut, you probably have to cut him. But not cut him, but renounce his rights. But after getting this huge payday this year, then that's just another piece you can come to free agents with, because I think players want to play with JJ Redick. He's, I think, known around the league as a good teammate.
Yeah, definitely. And Amir Johnson sort of the same way. I know that as a Celtics fan, he's somebody who we felt like the tread was a little worn on the tires, but by all accounts a good teammate and a guy that is willing to teach and to take younger players under his wing and do a lot of things that they need in Philadelphia.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Patrick, thanks for coming on the show. We always appreciate your analysis. Just coming on and giving it to us straight and giving us the your Monty Morris hot takes.
I love Monty Morris hot takes, man.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. It's nice to have you, and I'm sure we're going to talk to you again soon.
Awesome, man. Glad to be on, and have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Today I want to thank Patrick Oxford, our guest, and I want to thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed to us on SoundCloud, on YouTube, on iTunes, wherever you're getting your podcast content. And make sure to check out 94feetreport.com all summer long. We're doing 30 teams in 30 days talking about off-season moves. So follow me on Twitter at An1Analytics. Follow the 94 Feet Report on Twitter. Follow my personal account at @the_Alex_West. And make sure you're staying tuned all summer into the regular season, into the playoffs for all of your NBA content at the 94 Feet. I'm Alex West. Thanks for listening.